What's going on, everybody? It is your boy Zamboni. I'm a musician and astrologer, and it is time to talk about the astrology of the week ahead. Thank you so much for being here. Let's talk about it. What a day, what a week this is going to be. We are finally here. We have made it to the end of the Mars retrograde. I don't know about y'all, but I have been waiting and waiting for Mars to stop being retrograde. Mars is the planet of action and doing things and pushing on stuff and trying to move forward in some way. But Mars has not been moving forward. Mars has been moving backwards. And so that has made it very difficult for some time to make any kind of real progress on the Mars things. Like the Mars things are going to be the action and also whatever is going on for you, like whatever Mars is ruling in your chart. So that's going to be your Aries and your Scorpio house. By the way, if you don't know how to find the Aries and Scorpio house, then you can check out Astrology from the Ground Up. That's a course that I have on my website, zambonifunk.com. I ran that course a couple of times. It's real good. It's solid. It'll teach you how to do a reading and how to get information from the astrology that is going to be useful for you. If you don't feel like doing all that shit and just want me to do a reading for you, you can also get that at zambonifunk.com. You can get a whole chat, like an hour-long reading, or you can get a reading like this one where it's 10 minutes and it's a video recording. That one's super cheap. It's $30. It is very affordable and very high value. So if you want to go to zambonifunk.com and check those things out, you can do that. But what I'm getting at here is that Mars is currently placed in Cancer and has been moving backwards for a while. And so whatever's going on in Cancer is an area of your chart where you are likely to have found some like emotional upset that has maybe felt, what's the word here? Like paranoid or something like this, right? Like not feeling like it's worth it or not feeling like things are good in some kind of way. And then, and Aries and Scorpio also like difficult places where things have not been moving forward. And so to see Mars stationing direct looks like a moment where things maybe want to move forward again, right? But the thing here is that we've only got like 5 days or something like this before Venus stations retrograde in Aries, in Mars's sign. So all throughout the Mars retrograde, what I've been talking about is can you get your goals in alignment with your methods, right? So are you sure that that the thing that you're aiming for is the right aim? And are you sure that the things that you are doing are taking you toward that goal, right? And so that's all Mars action-oriented sort of stuff, right? Venus, on the other hand, is going to be much more sort of like desires and like the way that things feel, especially when it comes to like pleasure and an ability to get fun or joy out of something. And so Venus stationing retrograde on March 1st and then moving back, and then Venus is going to move back all the way into Pisces and like to the spot where Mercury is actually going to end this week. Then we are so. What I often think about a Venus retrograde is like, do I like what I like, or do I want what I want? You know, so this sort of gets to that same question around goals. Like, what is my goal here? And like, do I actually want that thing? So there's really what we see is much confusion. Confusion just abounds here. And so it's not clear whether or not the things that we have been maybe striving toward are actually worth it, are actually going to be valuable. But again, what I've been sort of like hammering on for a year, or not a year, but like for many weeks here at this point, is this idea of narrative and storytelling, right? Like there's something here that is really worth like doing the thought experiment and then seeing how that story ends up and finding a way to so like if you can figure out where that story sort of like naturally goes, then that's a good way for us to like sort of understand what's going on and how desirable the thing is really. So currently we've got Mercury in Pisces, and Mercury this week is going to make a conjunction to Saturn there in Pisces. This is very good for the narrative piece, but it is like, I heard somebody the other day say that it is not the job of science fiction writers to imagine cars, but rather to imagine the traffic jam, right? Like it's not like science fiction writers are always going to get the tech wrong because they can only sort of like see whatever technology is available to them in their sort of like historical moment. But the sort of like trends, the way that things end up, if you like think through them, then like, you know, like, so you don't necessarily have the ability to envision cars, but the idea of a traffic jam makes more sense, right? And so, and I like the idea of a traffic jam because Mercury, Saturn is big traffic jam energy. Mercury is our transportation, move around, go planet, the communication one. And Saturn is the stop planet. Saturn's the one that like brings challenges and obstacles and stuff, right? So Mercury and Saturn looks very much like a traffic jam, like transportation moving slowly or stopped, not moving at all in some kind of way, right? Or, you know, you might think about a pessimistic narrative with Mercury making this conjunction to Saturn. And so the idea of like, you have the ability to go 60, 70 miles an hour, but you don't do that because there's too many cars on the road. And so so what is it all for, right? That kind of thing looks like it wants to come up with Mercury and Saturn together. So, but this is really great for that thought experiment exercise. And actually, the other thing that we've got going on this week is we've got a new moon in Pisces. And this is actually going to be our last new moon in Pisces that isn't an eclipse for like a year and a half or something. So, or our last lunation in Pisces, that's either full moon or new moon, that's not eclipsed for some time. And it is square to Jupiter in Gemini. So Jupiter rules Pisces, and Jupiter in Gemini, that's one of our like chatty narrative storytelling signs. And so this is going to be really good for sort of planting the seed of a narrative and understanding what's going on, especially sort of like thinking through the life of that narrative. What happens if we build this world out and then sort of see what happens down the road of it? So this is a really good moment to get into that narrative and storytelling mode. This is not necessarily a moment to, just because Mars has station direct, like Mars is not really moving forward. Mars is still uncomfortable in Cancer. Mars is like, so like the action bit still isn't really happening, even though Mars is not moving backwards anymore. And listen, we can be grateful for that. I am here for Mars not moving backwards anymore, right? But that doesn't mean that we now just have a bunch of great Mars that is going to be super like effective and like handling business in the way that Mars really likes to do. Like we just don't get an effective Mars for like, I don't know, like till October almost, you know, like it's going to be a minute before we've got like a strong and effective Mars. This moment of the Venus retrograde, and then a little bit later, I think in a week, 2 weeks, Mercury is going to station retrograde in just the same spot as that Venus. So like in early Aries, we're going to see Mercury stationing retrograde, and so both of them, both Venus, the cooperative and relationship planet, along with Mercury, the communication and transportation planet, both of those are going to be moving backwards and sort of like thinking through like, well, given all of these obstacles, miscommunications, delays, the things that like came out in, like I said a thing and it came out differently than I thought it was going to, and that created some issues in the relationship or something like that. Those kinds of things, we got to go back and we got to like reevaluate and like reimagine all of the ways that we were going to do it, right? This is a really good time to get information. Like Mercury retrograde is hella annoying a lot of the time, and Venus retrograde as well. Very annoying, very difficult to get the pleasure that you typically want from Venus, especially since Venus is in Aries is already uncomfortable, already as far away from home as possible. And so already not doing the Venus thing super simply or easily. Then moving backwards, like, like having a tough time with it. But this is so good for information gathering. This is so good for, so if we think about like, all right, so October is when we get Mars in Scorpio, and that's going to be like super effective, like Mars handling business. At that point, Mars is going to be trying to Jupiter and Cancer. It looks great, right? So if that is the go moment, then how can we think with what is necessary and what is possible in order to potentiate that moment that is down the road.